In the 1990s, everyone in hip-hop understood one thing. The name Suge Knight wasn't just powerful, it was terrifying.
They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Every single artist avoided crossing him because they were genuinely afraid of what could happen if they did.
That nigga Suge Knight was a cold gangster. Yo, Ron.
Suge Knight had built a reputation as one of the most intimidating figures in the music business. As the co-founder of Death Row Records, he created one of the most dominant labels hip-hop had ever seen, signing legends like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and the late Tupac. But the stories about Suge went far beyond music. People in the industry whispered about the extreme ways he handled business. There were rumors of ruthlessness, violence, and tactics meant to scare people into doing exactly what he wanted. Suge was about 6'2", nearly 300 pounds, with a heavy build and an intimidating presence. He was known for beating people beyond recognition, to forcing them to drink urine, or even to the point of hanging them off balconies.
He took me out on the balcony, started talking to me personally.
On the balcony?
On the balcony.
High above?
Like 15 floors. He had me look over the edge, show me how high I was up there.
Were you scared?
I needed to wear a diaper on that day. I was very scared.
Whether those stories were exaggerated or not, one thing was clear. Suge Knight's reputation alone was enough to make people think twice before challenging him. To many in hip-hop scene, he felt almost untouchable. But then something strange happened. A young rapper from Detroit arrived in the industry, and he didn't seem concerned about Suge Knight at all. That rapper was Eminem. Though, at the time, Eminem was still rising in the rap world, he didn't have the power, the connections, or the history that someone like Suge Knight had built. And yet, he never appeared afraid.
This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real nigga. These niggas.
Some fans thought it was bold. Others thought it was reckless. But the person who worried the most about it was the man who knew Suge Knight better than almost anyone. That man was Dr. Dre. For those who don't know, Eminem was signed to Dr. Dre during this period. And if anyone understood how serious Suge Knight could be, it was Dre, because they had done business in the past. But to understand the depth of this story, and to understand why Eminem wasn't scared of the most feared legendary record label boss of the early 90s, one must have to dive into who Suge Knight really was and why the entire rap industry was terrified of him. Suge was born April 19, 1965 in Compton, California. Back in high school, Suge actually looked like he was heading toward a completely different future. He attended Linwood High School, where he played football and also ran track. And by the time he finished school, he was considered a standout athlete. In fact, several major college football scouts were interested in bringing him onto their teams. That's how talented he was. Suge eventually played college football and even made it to the NFL. And for a brief moment, it looked like he might build a real career in the sport. But even during that time, there were concerns. He was known to have ties to the mob Piru Bloods. Suge's coach reportedly warned him not to attend the University of Southern California, as it was too close to Compton, due to the fact the streets and the hood business could easily become a distraction. Instead, Suge signed with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. A year later, he briefly joined the LA Rams, but things didn't work out the way he hoped. Suge struggled to secure a real spot on the team, and eventually he found himself sitting on the bench. For someone with his personality, that was difficult to accept. Not long after that, Suge made a decision that would completely change the direction of his life. He walked away from football. His coach and LA felt Suge wasn't good enough for the team. This was the only thing he ever truly loved, and now he's lost it. This would bring out the other side in him, making him turn into a whole new person. And it was at this point, he shaved his hair and went bald. You can picture the terror that he would become for someone who was already into the streets. From there, Suge entered the entertainment world in a completely different way. He started working as a concert promoter and later became a bodyguard. He only did that job for about 2 years, but it helped him build connections in the music business. Then in 1989, Suge launched his own music publishing company. Over time, he developed a reputation in the industry as someone who could solve problems. the kind of person people called when a situation needed to be handled. One of the most famous examples involved rapper Vanilla Ice and a royalty dispute over the hit song Ice Ice Baby. Suge reportedly stepped in to help resolve the issue on behalf of his client, Mario Johnson. Moments like that helped Suge build his reputation as a powerful figure behind the scenes. And before long, he decided he didn't just want to fix problems in the music industry. He wanted to run his own empire. So in 1991, Suge launched his label, Death Row Records, and that decision would go on to create one of the most legendary and controversial record labels in hip-hop history. Knowing everything about Suge Knight, his reputation, the stories, and the power he had in the industry, most people would have been extremely careful around him. But Eminem was different. For some reason, Suge Knight simply didn't intimidate him. And a lot of people have wondered why. The answer might start with where Eminem came from. He grew up in Detroit, and life there wasn't easy. Eminem had a rough childhood, raised by a single mother, and constantly dealing with bullying while growing up. He spent years being underestimated, pushed around, and forced to defend himself.
Beat up in bathroom, beat up in the hallways, shoved in the lockers.
So by the time he entered the rap industry, Eminem had already developed a mindset where fear didn't control him. Many fans believe the background is one of the reasons Suge Knight never managed to scare him. And that fearless attitude would soon be tested on one of the biggest nights in hip-hop. In 1999, Eminem was everywhere. His album, the Slim Shady LP, had just dropped, and his hit single, My Name Is, was dominating radio and television. Even though he was still new to the industry, Eminem was already becoming impossible to ignore. That same year, he was invited to present the Best Live Performer Award to DMX at the Source Awards.
Where my dogs at? DMX! Why yo?
But what most viewers didn't know was what happened before the cameras started rolling. As Eminem made his way to his seat inside the venue, he suddenly noticed something. He was surrounded. Several of Suge Knight's goons were standing around him, watching closely.
M was walking to his seat, I'm standing off to the side, and M was cut off on his way to his seat, and all these guys in red shirts surrounded him. And I'm looking at M's face, and I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, something ain't right. So I started making my way around to come up the aisle, and next thing I know, you see all these guys talking about Death Row, Death Row. I was like, Death Row, what does it got to do with him? He said, hey man, Suge sent him a message. I said, oh, yeah.
But Eminem didn't panic. He didn't react. Instead, he calmly walked up to the stage, presented the award to DMX, and returned to his seat as if nothing had happened. To the audience watching the show, everything looked normal. But behind the scenes, things were far from over. After the event ended, Eminem and his security team began leaving the venue, and outside, Suge's goons were still there, waiting.
After that, we got out of there. We called the limo. This is where it gets up. We called the limo. Death Row is still sitting out there waiting for us. The limo's pulling off as we're coming out. Death Row's behind us.
Now this raises a bigger question. Why would the CEO of one of the most powerful record labels in hip-hop even be interested in confronting Eminem in the first place? To understand that, you have to look at what was happening inside Death Row Records at the time. During the mid-1990s, Death Row was the most dominant label in hip-hop. They released legendary albums like The Chronic by Dr. Dre, Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg, and All Eyes on Me by Tupac. The label seemed unstoppable.
Death Row's gonna be the biggest record company there is.
Next year, Death Row gonna start printing our own money.
But behind the scenes, the environment at Death Row was becoming increasingly chaotic. Stories began to spread about the intimidation, fear, and extreme control inside the company. Many people believed the label had developed a culture where stepping out of line could have serious consequences. He stripped people naked at gunpoint and pistol whipped them. Staff members would hear screams and crying through the office walls, but they knew better than to get involved. They just kept their heads down, pretending nothing was going on. Over time, the atmosphere became so toxic that one of the label's most important figures decided he'd had enough. That person was Dr. Dre. Dre had joined Death Row to make music, not to be surrounded by constant drama and tension. So he made a bold decision. He walked away from the label entirely. He left behind money, royalties, and one of the most successful record companies in hip-hop.
Well, I don't lead by money. I've never let money lead my life.
Soon after, Dre launched his own label, Aftermath Entertainment. But Suge Knight didn't take that betrayal lightly. Feeling disrespected, Suge wanted Dre to regret leaving Death Row. And at first, it looked like he might succeed. Aftermath Records struggled during its early years. Compared to the massive hits coming from Death Row, Dre's first projects didn't perform as well as expected. Fans even started questioning whether Dre had lost his touch. But then something happened that changed everything. While reviewing demo tapes with Jimmy Iovine, Dre heard a voice that immediately caught his attention. That voice belonged to Eminem. At the time, Eminem was just a struggling rapper from Detroit trying to survive. He had faced poverty, rejection, and constant criticism throughout his life. Being a white rapper in a genre dominated by black artists made his journey even harder, but his talent was undeniable. His writing, his delivery, and his raw energy made him stand out from almost everyone else. In 1998, Dre took a gamble and signed Eminem to Aftermath. Together, they created the Slim Shady LP. The album exploded. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling over 283,000 copies in its first week. The project earned Eminem a Grammy Awards win for Best Rap Album and completely revived Dre's position in the music industry.
The Grammy goes to Mr. Controversy, Eminem.
The partnership between Dre and Eminem quickly became one of the most powerful collaborations hip-hop had ever seen. But while fans were celebrating the success, not everyone was happy. Watching all of this from the sidelines with hate and envy was Suge Knight, and he was not pleased.
M had inherited Dr. Dre's beef by signing with Dre. M was now the prodigy of Dr. Dre. Dre left Death Row. Suge didn't like that. Dre getting back on, got this white rapper that's ended up being the best rapper in the fucking world. Suge had a problem with it. He was like, you know what? That kid need to be with us.
By the late 1990s, the empire Suge Knight once controlled was beginning to fall apart. Tupac was murdered. Suge himself ended up behind bars, and another major star from Death Row Records was starting to turn against him. That star was Snoop Dogg. Just like Dr. Dre, Snoop wasn't interested in continuing the East Coast versus West Coast feud. He stayed friends with artists. Suge considered enemies, and that didn't sit well with him. Tensions between them grew quickly. At one point, Suge was reportedly so furious with Snoop's defiance that he even threatened his life. Feeling unsafe, Snoop decided he had no choice. He left Death Row. And with Snoop gone and Tupac gone, Death Row had lost all its superstars. It marked the end of an era. The label that once dominated hip-hop and the empire Suge built was slowly collapsing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the industry, Dr. Dre and Eminem were thriving. Their albums were topping charts, winning awards, and becoming cultural moments in music. And every time Eminem succeeded, it only added fuel to Suge Knight's anger. To Suge, Eminem wasn't just another rapper. He was the new face of Dr. Dre's success. And that made Eminem an enemy. Suge began publicly criticizing both Dre and Eminem whenever he had the chance. During a 2002 interview with Howard Stern, Suge questioned Eminem's authenticity, suggesting he wasn't really from the streets and was simply playing a role he didn't belong.
What do you think of Eminem? Is that what do you think of white rap?
If you really from the ghetto and you really doing those things you rapping about, you talking about, I can respect that.
Right.
If somebody else writing your rhymes, somebody else, if you telling somebody else's story, that really don't mean nothing.
But the tension didn't stay limited to interviews. There were also moments where things nearly turned physical. In 1999, Dre and Snoop planned a Death Row reunion party in Hawaii. Eminem joined the trip, expecting a relaxed getaway with family, wives, and kids. But when they arrived, things reportedly took a different turn. Suge's presence immediately created tension, as he had plans of ruining the union. Despite all the dispute, Eminem kept thriving and went on to sign his own artist 50 Cent. And that wouldn't be the last time their paths crossed, because back in 2001, during the video shoot for In Da Club by 50 Cent, Suge allegedly showed up again. this time with a much larger group of men.
Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now, we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. 118th Street crew. I'm like, what the fuck? 50 niggas outside, what's up? And then the nigga Suge just walked away. The Mexican niggas looked kind of confused, like they didn't know what's going on.
Instead of hiding or avoiding the situation, Eminem reportedly walked outside to confront them.
I remember the time, actually, it's funny because he showed up in the club video shoot. He came, it was like, Suge's outside! Suge's outside! Everybody like, it was running, dropping shit, like, man, everybody going, I'm in front of the camera like this.
But you could ask yourself why Eminem rarely spoke publicly about Suge Knight, and there was a reason for that. In 2004, and his song Like Toy Soldiers, Eminem revealed that Dr. Dre had asked him to stay out of the feud with Suge. Dre knew how dangerous the situation could become, so Eminem stayed mostly silent. But Suge Knight continued taking shots at him over the years. On the podcast Collect Call, alongside Cat Williams, Suge criticized Eminem's involvement in a posthumous Tupac project. Back in 2003, Eminem had contacted Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, asking for her blessing to produce a tribute album honoring Tupac's legacy. She agreed. The result was the 2004 album Loyal to the Game. Commercially, the project was successful. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and eventually went platinum. But the reviews were mixed. Some Tupac fans felt the album sounded too polished, with modern production that didn't match Tupac's original West Coast sound. Others believed it felt more like an Eminem project than a true Tupac record. Eminem never directly responded to the criticism. But years later, something unexpected surfaced. In early 2025, an unreleased Eminem diss track from the mid-2000s leaked online, and it immediately sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world. The song, reportedly titled Smack You, was brutally direct. In the track, Eminem took aim at Ja Rule and Suge Knight. He mocked Ja Rule's height, criticized his parenting, and then turned his attention towards Suge. In one of the most shocking moments of the song, Eminem even accused Suge Knight of being connected to the deaths of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. Many fans believe that if Eminem had released that track during the height of Suge Knight's power, it could have put an even bigger target on his back. But the fact that Eminem was willing to record something that bold tells you everything you need to know. No matter how powerful Suge Knight's reputation was, Eminem never seemed afraid to stand his ground. And that might be the real reason their story still fascinates hip-hop fans till today.